Forget everything you learned in school books. Forget the romantic image of pharaohs obsessed with death, ordering thousands of slaves to drag monumental stones under the scorching sun just to glorify their own corpses. This narrative, while convenient for classical Egyptology, does not withstand 5 minutes of serious technical analysis. We have been conditioned to look at the Giza Plateau as a sacred cemetery. But the reality is much more electrifying and, for the established system, much more dangerous. The Great Pyramid of Giza was never a tomb. Think about it. In all other smaller pyramids and mastabas, we find texts, hieroglyphs celebrating the pharaoh's life, prayers for the underworld, and colorful frescoes. In the Great Pyramid, the silence is absolute. There is not a single original inscription on its stone walls. More than that, never, in the entire history of archaeology, has a single mummy been found inside the original chambers of the Great Pyramid. No treasures, no canopic jars, no organic remains. What the explorer Al-Mamun found in 820 AD, when forcing entry into the main chamber, was an empty granite sarcophagus, lidless, and a structure that exhaled a strange chemical odor, not the smell of death. The reality check we need to face is that Giza is not a cemetery. It is an industrial complex, an advanced engineering facility operating under laws of physics that our civilization has only recently begun to rediscover. What we call monuments are in fact hardware, stone machines tuned to the pulse of the earth itself. We are looking at a free energy power plant designed by the Elohim to sustain a global technological infrastructure that existed before the last great cataclysm. And to understand how this machine works, we need to stop listening to archaeologists and start listening to engineers. To understand the operation of this plant, we need to analyze its casing. The Great Pyramid is not just a pile of rocks. It is a giant capacitor composed of different types of conductive and insulating materials, organized with a precision that borders on the impossible. The exterior of the pyramid was originally cased in 115,000 blocks of polished white limestone. This material is extremely pure and has almost no magnesium. It acted as a perfect thermal and electrical insulator. Imagine the pyramid shining under the sun but totally shielded. None of the energy generated inside escaped through the sides. It was designed to be a closed and directed system. But as we cross this insulating layer and enter the internal structure, the geology changes drastically. The builders used dolomitic limestone. Unlike the outer casing, this limestone is rich in magnesium and metals, which exponentially increases its electrical conductivity. But the final secret lies in the heart of the machine. The inner chambers and main channels were made of rose granite. The rose granite of Aswan was not chosen for its beauty. It was transported over 800 kilometers because it is one of the most quartz-rich rocks in nature. Here we enter the field of pure physics. Quartz is a piezoelectric material. This means that if you apply mechanical pressure to it, it generates an electrical charge. If you make it vibrate, it transforms that mechanical energy into electricity. Now, try to visualize the scale of this. 6 million tons of stone exerting constant crushing pressure on a core filled with quartz crystals. The Great Pyramid isn't sitting in the desert, it is pulsating. It was built over a geological anomaly, a point where the Earth's telluric currents are most intense. The structure acts as a colossal transducer, capturing the deep mechanical vibrations of our planet, the famous Schumann resonance, and converting them into electricity through the piezoelectric effect of its granite chambers. It is an acoustic resonator. Every chamber, every corridor, and every block of rose granite was cut to resonate at specific harmonic frequencies. When the earth vibrates, the pyramid sings. And this song isn't just sound. It is pure electrical energy being generated by the very weight of the artificial mountain. The Giza Plateau was the power station of a civilization that didn't need to burn coal or oil. They mastered the harmonic physics of the Elohim. Shi. If the exterior of the pyramid is the casing of a capacitor, its interior is a chemical reactor of absolute precision. As we enter the inner chambers, we leave archaeology behind and enter the field of fluid engineering. What conventional history calls ventilation shafts are actually waveguides and ducts for transporting gases. In the so-called Queen's Chamber, we find 2 shafts that do not lead to the outside of the pyramid. They are blind shafts. In 1993, engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent the robot Upyao-2 up these channels and discovered something Egyptology tried to ignore: chemical residues of dilute hydrochloric acid and zinc hydrate. Christopher Dunn's hypothesis is overwhelming and technically flawless. The Queen's chamber functioned as a hydrogen generator. These two chemicals were injected through the shafts, mixing in the center of the chamber to create a reaction that released combustible hydrogen gas. The hydrogen, being the lightest and most efficient element, rose toward the heart of the structure, filling the Great Gallery. The Great Gallery was not a passageway, but a massive acoustic resonator. With its 27 pairs of slots in the walls, it housed quartz resonators that amplified the Earth's vibration, transforming the flow of hydrogen into an energy plasma. This charged gas was then directed to the King's chamber. Here is where the definitive proof of industrial function appears. If you look at the granite sarcophagus in the King's chamber, you will see it has no ornaments. It is a functional box, cut with diamond drill precision, designed to vibrate at a specific harmonic frequency. But look at the walls. The rose granite blocks, which should be indestructible, show clear signs of thermal expansion. There are cracks in the ceiling that were not caused by the weight of the stones above, but by colossal internal pressure. There is evidence of vitrification and combustion residues. The King's chamber was the scene of an energy reaction so powerful that it generated high-temperature burns on the rocks. This shows us that the pyramid was not just a passive plant. It was an active hydrogen reactor that transformed acoustic vibration into electromagnetic radiation. What happened there was an ancient nuclear incident or a forced shutdown due to overload. The Giza plant didn't stop working due to a lack of maintenance. It stopped because something inside it exploded, leaving behind the scars of a technology that our current science is still struggling to comprehend. Though generating a colossal amount of energy is only half the challenge, the true triumph of the Elohim's engineering was how this energy was distributed. They didn't use wires, copper cables, or poles. They used the planet itself and its atmosphere as a global conductor. The Great Pyramid, functioning as a hydrogen microwave transmitter, fired its energy beam toward the ionosphere, the electrified layer of the Earth's atmosphere. Upon hitting this layer, the energy was distributed around the globe. But for this energy to be useful, it needed to be captured at the destination. This is where the obelisks come in. Archaeologists say obelisks were decorative monuments or solar symbols. However, if you look at the structure of an obelisk, you will see it is the perfect design of a receiving antenna. Made of solid granite, again piezoelectric quartz crystal, and originally capped with an alloy of gold and silver called electrum, the obelisks functioned as wireless energy reception towers. This is not an idea out of science fiction. It is the exact principle Nikola Tesla tried to replicate with his Wardenclyffe Tower in New York. Tesla knew that the Earth is a natural conductor and that the atmosphere can transmit energy if excited at the correct frequency. He was essentially trying to rebuild the Anunnaki world grid. Tesla wrote about how the Great Pyramid was a giant transmitter. He understood that the pyramid's geometry and its geographic location at the center of the landmass were not accidental. The pyramid was tuned to the planet's pulse so that energy could be transmitted without loss to anywhere in the world. Imagine ancient cities, Egypt, Sumer, the Indus Valley. They were not lit by smoky torches, but by devices we would today call eternal lamps, capturing electricity from the air through small antennas or smaller obelisks. The gods' global energy grid was clean, free, and inexhaustible. Tesla's project was sabotaged by oil and copper barons because free energy cannot be measured by a meter nor charged on a bill. Likewise, the history of Elohim technology was erased so that humanity would remain dependent on fossil fuels and centralized control. Giza was the world's energy router, and the obelisks were the access terminals for the ancient energy internet. If the pyramid was a power plant and a transmitter, it also fulfilled a third vital function for the stellar colonizers, that of a navigation guide. In the vast literature of Zecharia Sitchin, based on the translation of Sumerian tablets, the Giza pyramids are referred to as ekurs, or houses that are like mountains. But they were not natural mountains, they were deliberate geodesic markers. Sitchin argues that after the flood, Earth's geographic features changed drastically, and the Anunnaki needed a new beacon system for their ships entering the atmosphere. They aligned the Great Pyramid with Mount Sinai and other structures in a perfect straight line, creating a landing corridor for their spaceport. But the pyramid wasn't just a visual landmark. It emitted what ancient texts call the pulse. Sitchin describes that special crystals known as bowers or radio transmitters were installed inside the pyramid. These devices emitted a beam of light or frequency that served as a radio beacon for pilots coming from space. The pyramid was the lighthouse of the Earth. In the Sumerian texts narrating the Pyramid Wars, violent conflicts between different lineages of gods for control of the planet, the Great Pyramid is the ultimate prize. In one of these accounts, the god Ninurta invades the pyramid and, after defeating its defenders, orders the destruction of its heart. He enters the chambers and removes the resonator crystals, the guidance stones, and the capstone or gold pyramidion from the top. This explains why today we find the pyramid as an empty shell. What archaeologists see as an unfinished or rustic construction is actually a machine that was looted and disarmed after a technological war. The bowers were taken and the beacon function was deactivated. Without these crystals and without its conductive capstone, the pyramid lost its voice. What remained was the mountain of stone, a silent witness to an era when Earth was integrated into an interplanetary traffic network. Giza was ground zero, the command center where Earth's energy and the stars' routes met in a perfect aerospace engineering design. The question echoing through the millennia is, if this plant was so powerful, why did it stop? The answer is etched into the very physical scars of the structure. The Great Pyramid was not abandoned for lack of utility. It was the victim of a catastrophic event that forced its permanent shutdown. There are two main currents to explain this great shutdown. The first points to the flood, a global cataclysm that flooded the lower chambers and clogged the resonance channels with mud and sediment, unbalancing the acoustic harmony needed for piezoelectricity. But the second, darker hypothesis speaks of deliberate military sabotage or a critical system failure. When we look at the king's chamber, the evidence of an internal explosion is undeniable. The granite ceiling beams, weighing about 70 tons each, are slightly displaced upwards and outwards. Egyptologists try to blame an earthquake, but a seismic shock would have made the stones collapse inward. What happened there was a sudden release of pressure, a hydrogen gas explosion. The rose granite walls show signs of deep chemical alteration. They are darkened and show slight vitrification, something that only occurs under extreme heat and controlled pressure. The plant literally melted from the inside. It was at this moment that the capstone, the top piece made of gold or electrum, was likely removed or destroyed. Without this final circuit closing piece, the pyramid lost its ability to fire energy into the ionosphere. Proof that the ancients tried to manage this crisis is in the so-called service shaft or escape shaft. Engineers suggest that this irregular vertical tunnel was not a construction error, but a pressure relief duct dug in haste to try to prevent the total explosion of the machine. What remained of Giza after this event was a carcass stripped of its electronic components. The resonator crystals were removed, the chemicals drained, and the insulating casing stones looted over the centuries. Today, what we see is merely the skeleton of an engine that once roared with the Earth's energy. The Giza plant is the world's greatest memorial to a golden age that ended in technological disaster, leaving humanity in the dark to this day. Why does modern science, with all its technology, still refuse to admit that Giza was a power plant? The answer is simple and devastating: control. Admitting that an ancient civilization mastered free energy and wireless transmission would mean dismantling the entire economic structure that holds the modern world captive. If humanity rediscovers that the planet itself is an inexhaustible battery, the empires of oil, coal, and centralized power grids would collapse overnight. Free energy is the first step to real freedom. A humanity with free energy is a humanity that cannot be enslaved by debt or artificial scarcity. The elite who govern this world know what is hidden beneath the sands of Egypt. They know that the pyramids are not monuments to the past, but prototypes of a future that was stolen from us. There is a reason why ground-penetrating radar explorations are restricted and why so many discoveries at Giza are immediately classified as national security by the Egyptian government and foreign powers. They are guarding the keys to an engine that can still be started. But the time of secrecy is coming to an end. As we saw in our previous episodes about the return of the gods, we are approaching a new cosmic cycle. The year 2026 marks an alignment window that many researchers like Paul Wallace and followers of Sitchin believe to be the moment when this dormant technology will be reactivated. The pyramids are waiting. They are eternal machines built to last ages. They survived the flood, ancient atomic wars, and the erosion of time. The hardware is still there, planted in the earth, tuned to the planet's frequency. All that is missing is the consciousness needed to operate them again. The question that remains for you is, are we ready to inherit the technology of the Elohim? Or will we continue accepting the lie that we are merely descendants of slaves who built tombs for dead kings? The truth isn't buried. It is in plain sight, in millions of tons of granite and quartz, pulsating under the desert sun, waiting for the day humanity finally decides to turn on the light. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support us and become a member to get exclusive access to audio versions of our material. It helps us a lot. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Until next time.